There's a person in your life right now, someone you love, someone you trust, who is not who you think they are. I know that's an uncomfortable thing to hear. Maybe your chest just tightened. Maybe a name flashed across your mind before you could stop it. Hold that, because that flash, that involuntary half-second flicker, that's not paranoia, that's data. And for most of your life, you've been trained to throw it away. We are taught from the time we are small to look for the good in people, and that is a beautiful instinct. But somewhere along the way, that lesson got distorted. It became ignore the bad, override the doubt, smile back even when something in your stomach is screaming. We didn't learn how to read people. We learned how to perform trust and call it love. I spent years being wrong about people, not because I was naive, not because I was weak, but because no one ever taught me what to actually look for, and I was so desperate to see the best in others that I outsourced my own instincts. Here's what I know now. The most dangerous people in your life will never announce themselves. They won't come in with red flags flying. They'll come in with warmth, with laughter, with a version of you that feels seen for the very first time. And that feeling, God, that feeling, is so intoxicating that you'll ignore everything that comes after it. Psychologists call it the halo effect. When someone does one thing well, one thing that moves us, our brain fills in the rest. We assume the warmth is real. We assume the care is consistent. We build a whole human being out of a handful of beautiful moments. But people reveal themselves slowly, and only when it costs them something. If I could sit across from my younger self right now, I'd say this: stop watching what people say. Start watching what they do when they're not being watched. Watch how they treat the waiter. Watch how they talk about their exes, all of them. Watch what they do when you disappoint them for the first time. Because kindness under ideal conditions is easy. Character shows up in friction. I'd tell him, the people who love you loudly in public but go cold behind closed doors, pay attention to that. The person who shares your secrets dressed up as concern, pay attention to that. The friend who celebrates you, but only when your wins are smaller than theirs, pay attention to that. Your nervous system already knows. You've just been told your whole life to override it. Dr. Paul Ekman spent decades studying microexpressions, those involuntary flickers of emotion that cross a human face in less than a fifth of a second before the mask goes back up. What he found was that most of us can feel them, we register them. We just don't trust what we feel. We've been taught that intuition is weakness, that suspicion is unkind, that giving the benefit of the doubt is a virtue. But there's a difference between generosity and self-abandonment, and a lot of us have been confusing the two for our entire lives. Here's the hardest truth I'd give him. The people who were the most difficult to read weren't actually that difficult. I just didn't want to read them clearly, because clarity would have cost me the relationship, and I wasn't ready to pay that price. So I read them the way I needed them to be, not the way they actually were. That's not a failure of perception. That's a failure of self-worth. When you don't believe you deserve honesty, you accept the performance. When you don't believe you deserve consistency, you're grateful for the good days and you make excuses for the rest. Reading people isn't about becoming cynical. It's not about building walls or walking through life suspicious of every smile. It's about something much quieter than that. It's about trusting yourself enough to notice and being brave enough not to look away. It's about understanding that the most profound act of love you can offer anyone, including yourself, is to see them clearly. Not who you wish they were, not who they promised to be, who they actually are right now in this moment when something real is on the line. Because here's the thing about people. The real ones, the ones worth keeping, they won't make you work that hard to see them. They'll be legible, consistent, whole, the same in the light as they are in the dark. I wish someone had told me earlier that loneliness is not the worst thing. The worst thing is being surrounded by people and still feeling completely unseen, because you built your world around versions of people that only ever existed inside your own hope. See people, but see yourself first, and trust Really trust what you find.